Hi everyone, I hope this video finds you well because um, I think this is my first time doing this with you guys and I just want to see if that works out. If it does, then good. If it doesn't, then you let me know later. The purpose of this video is just to um, give you extra information. This is supplementary um, element to help explain more about adjectives because I believe that this component, specifically this one, will help you a lot in preparing for your second assessment and also for other assessments that you guys will be doing towards the end of the semester. All right. So as you guys are very aware of, I have provided sufficient notes on adjectives on Ely page, which you can have access to until the end of the semester. But like I said, this one is just an extra explanation, and I believe that by doing this, I can help you understand even more. All right. So if you have questions about adjectives, feel free to text me on our WhatsApp group, and then we'll see how it goes after that. All right. Now, first of all, you have to understand what adjectives are. In Malay, we call it kata sifat, all right? But I don't want you to get used to that term too much because we learn English for a reason, all right? So number one, adjectives are words that you use to describe three things. Number one, people, places, and things. You describe people with certain words, you describe places with certain words, and also you describe things with certain words. Whatever words there are, if you use them to describe these three parts, they are called adjectives. So just remember that adjectives adalah kata sifat. You use them to describe other things, other places, or other people. Specifically for assessment 2, you guys are going to see or play around with the use of adjective to describe places because uh, apart from covering it for learning unit 3, which is location, you guys will be using it a lot for your assessment. All right, describing places. Now, adjectives, as I said just now, it gives more information, describes places, people, and things. Also, it gives more information about people, places, and things. For example, if you say this sentence, this is a university. Um, when you say that line to someone else, it doesn't really give enough information. That is just a university, right? But what kind of university, what type of university is that? Uh, there's nothing there. But if you include the word beautiful, as you can see in that second example, that is a beautiful university. It gives an extra information. What kind of university is it? It's a beautiful university. So the word beautiful there, because it describes university, beautiful is automatically an adjective. Okay, so that is a beautiful university. If you were to convert that directly into Malay, it's university itu sangat cantik. So the word cantik in Malay is kata sifat or adjective. Okay, so that is a university versus that is a beautiful university. Obviously, the second example gives you extra information, more information compared to the first one. So that's the use of adjective here. All right. These are the other examples. The first one, the girl is pretty. The word pretty is an adjective because it describes girl. All right. How does the girl look? The girl is pretty. So pretty is an adjective. He is a handsome boy. Okay, how does he look? He looks handsome. He is a handsome boy. So the word handsome is an adjective. My house is small. Rumah saya sangat kecil. So the word small or kecil is also an adjective because it describes house. And lastly, that car is expensive. Kereta itu sangat mahal or kereta itu mahal. The word expensive or mahal is adjective because it describes car. Alright, so just to recap, the word in the first example, the word pretty is an adjective because it describes the word girl. The word handsome is an adjective because it describes boy. The word small is an adjective because it describes house. And the word expensive is an adjective because it describes the car. All right. The first two sentences are words to describe people, right? Because girl and boy. The third example is an adjective to describe a location or a place, okay, which is a house. And the fourth example is an adjective to describe items of things. So remember the three uh, kind of categories where you can use adjectives. Okay, people, places, and things. All right. Now, what's more important here is for you to understand that when we talk about adjective, uh, just using adjective alone might not be enough. All right. So which is why when we talk about adjective, there are levels to it. The first level itself is what we call the adjective, the kata sifat itself. The next level is what we call comparative. Now, the word comparative comes from the word compare. The word compare means to membandingkan. All right. Before I go on further, you have to also understand that when we use the word membandingkan, dia tidak semestinya bercakap tentang perbezaan. When you membuat perbandingan or when you make comparisons of things, or places, or people, you can also talk about the similarities, persamaan. Alright, so remember, when you need to compare something, someone, or some place, don't just talk about the differences. You can also talk about the similarities. Alright, so under comparative, it can be persamaan dan perbezaan. Just remember that. We'll be talking more about that later on. But let me try to cover this first. So going back, there's adjective, and then we have comparative, and then we have the final stage is superlative. Okay, just to give you a very simple idea of this, when it's adjective, it's the word itself, the adjective in its root form. For example, the word big, besar. The word big is an adjective because it describes something or someone or some place. But when you turn it into comparative, it's not big anymore. Okay, it becomes bigger. Right? Now going back to the nature of comparative, you use comparative sentences when you want to compare one item to another. So bila awak bercakap tentang satu perkara saja, you cannot use comparative. You only use comparative form when you want to compare one item to another. Membuat perbandingan. That's when you use comparative. Remember that, membuat perbandingan, then you use comparative. So the word big just now, the adjective big, when you use it to compare one item to another, you cannot use big anymore. It has to be bigger. All right. For example, I give you an example for now. Let's use the adjective big. Unimas is big. Unimas adalah besar. Right. So that's adjective. Adakah awak membuat perbandingan? Tidak. But you can use it untuk membuat perbandingan. For example, you want to membandingkan Unimas and UiTM. Two universities, two places, Unimas and UiTM. So you cannot use adjective only, you have to use comparative. So remember, the word big in comparative becomes bigger. So you say Unimas is bigger than UiTM. Membuat perbandingan already. Okay, so you understand? You cannot say Unimas is big than UiTM, cannot, because big is the adjective form only. When you membuat perbandingan, it has to follow the comparative form. Unimas is bigger than UiTM. Okay. Now going to superlative form. Superlative, you are not comparing anything anymore. All right. Over here, you are just selecting which one is in the highest degree or in the highest form of something. Paling, ter, or something. That's what we call it in Malay. Paling ataupun ter. Okay, so over here in superlative, remember what you compared just now? You can, boleh change it into superlative if you were to choose which one yang paling ter something. For example, Unimas adalah universiti paling besar di Malaysia, for example. So you cannot say Unimas is bigger. Tidak boleh, right? Because you need to select and you have to put it in the highest form. You now say Unimas is the biggest university in Malaysia. Okay, so let me very quickly tell you the difference. Unimas is a big university, that's adjective, but change it to comparative. Unimas is bigger than UITM. That's comparative. But change that to superlative, it becomes UNIMAS is the biggest university. Okay, you can see the progress there from adjective to comparative to superlative. Remember that. All right. Same goes with the word small. In adjective, it is small. The room is small. But if you want to compare that room with another room, you say this room is smaller than that room. Membuat perbandingan. Okay, but if you were to choose bilik mana yang paling kecil, you say this room is the smallest room. Tiada perbandingan lagi. It's just selecting which one has the highest degree of something. Right? The word pretty, change it to comparative, it becomes prettier. Change it to superlative, it becomes prettiest. The word crazy becomes crazier in comparative. In superlative, it becomes craziest. All right? But I want you to take note on the word handsome. Now, the word handsome is an adjective, but when you change it to comparative, you cannot simply add ER at the end. All right, that's because it's one of those words in English that the moment you add ER at the end, it sounds a bit weird. All right. I always tell students this: if the word sounds weird in English when you modify it, that means it might not exist. So, for example, the word handsome is an adjective, but when you change it to comparative, if you were to follow the previous form, you cannot say handsomer because handsomer sounds weird. All right. So when you change the word handsome to comparative, instead of saying handsomer, it becomes more handsome. Okay. So for words that sound weird, when you add ER to make it comparative, don't add ER, but you add the word more in front. Okay, so handsome becomes more handsome, and because in comparative it is more handsome, in superlative you just have to simply change the word more into most. Okay, in superlative, paling handsome. More is lebih handsome daripada. But superlative, most handsome, paling handsome. All right. The word amazing is also the same. All right. When you change it to comparative, it becomes more amazing. When you change it to superlative, it becomes most amazing. Incredible, more incredible, and superlative, it becomes most incredible. Now, on your part, I need you to go to look at your textbook, all right, and I want you to go to exercise, the list of exercises that I've put there. On page 38, task 3, number 2, I want you to try to complete it on your own, and then the next page, page 39, task 4, number 2. All right, so you try to complete those exercises. If you really understand what I've covered so far and what you've read on Eli page so far, I believe you wouldn't have problems trying to complete these exercises. Okay, going on to the next one. You have to remember that I think I pointed this out just now. When you are making comparisons, membuat perbandingan, remember that you are not supposed to talk about differences only. Jangan bercakap tentang perbezaan saja. When you make comparisons, remember that talking about similarities can also contribute to that. Alright, so jangan bercakap tentang perbezaan, cakap tentang persamaan. Alright, for example, the sentence is UNIMAS is bigger than UITM. UNIMAS lebih besar daripada UITM. Itu adalah perbezaan. But you can also talk about the similarity. You can say UNIMAS is as big as UITM, which means UNIMAS sama besar dengan UITM. Alright, remember that form, as big as. But I don't want you to keep on using the same exact phrase, because the form that you have to remember is as blank space as. Alright, you have to fill in that blank space with the appropriate adjective. Okay. When you are describing similarities, persamaan, these are two forms that you can follow. Number one is as, what, as. Now, the blank there, you have to fill it. The first example, the first form, as blank as. You have to fill in that blank with the appropriate adjective. So, bergantung kepada apa yang awak nak describe, you fill that blank with the appropriate adjective. Kalau awak nak bercakap tentang tempat yang sama besar, sama besar. Okay, you say as big as, sama besar. Alright. Kalau awak nak bercakap tentang sama tinggi, as tall as. If you want to talk about sama handsome, as handsome as. Alright, persamaan. Another form that you can remember is the use of both. What and what are handsome. For example, both Unimas and UiTM are big. Kedua-dua Unimas dan UiTM adalah besar, sama besar. Okay, so remember these two forms, as, what, as, and both are what? Fill it in with an adjective. Okay, sangat senang. Just use these two forms when you describe similarities. Of course, there are other ways out there, but for now, I just need you to focus on these two forms when describing similarities. Memberikan persamaan, bercakap tentang persamaan. Okay, using the same form, you can describe differences. For example, you want to use the form as, what as. Tadi I said that you can use it to describe similarities, right? But you can slightly change it if you want to talk about perbezaan. You can say Unimas is not as big as UiTM. The word not there, the addition of the word not, simply makes it into what do you call that? Perbezaan. Unimas tidak sebesar UiTM. Also, you can also use this form. Now, these exercises are taken directly from your textbook. I'm not sure which page is that. Let me check again. The one on Durham University and Bristol University is on page 44. Page 44, then you can try to do it on your own. But let's try to do it very quickly together now. If you look at the information in the table about Durham University and Bristol University, we can see that they are being compared in terms of when they were founded, the number of students, right? Let me try to okay, founded, number of students, average annual rent for accommodation. Maksudnya di sini adalah bayaran tahunan untuk accommodation. Accommodation is tempat tinggal. Alright, so berapa bayaran tahunan untuk kedua-dua universiti ini, percentage of overseas students, and also the international airport. So over here in this table, we can see perbandingan sebenarnya. There are similarities, there are differences. Alright, so let's try to talk about it very quickly. Now, in this exercise right here, we have 5 sentences which you have to decide whether they are true or not. Okay, betul ataupun tidak bercakap tentang persamaan dan perbezaan. Okay, number 1, it says Durham is newer than Bristol. Durham adalah lebih baru daripada Bristol. Okay, it says here Durham is newer than Bristol. Is it correct or not? Now you have to go back to here. Durham University was founded in 1832, while Bristol University was founded in 1876. So obviously, Bristol University was founded a lot later than Durham, which also means that Bristol is newer than Durham. Bristol University adalah lebih baru. So over here, number 1, sentence number 1 is actually wrong. Okay, so if you were to fix that, it becomes Bristol is newer than Durham. Okay, number 2, there are more students at Bristol. So if you see here, in Durham University, there are 15,000 students, while in Bristol University, there are 21,000 students. Lebih ramai student di Bristol. Okay, so over here it says there are more students at Bristol, which means the second sentence is correct. Number 3, students' accommodation at Durham is as expensive as Bristol. Accommodation di Durham adalah sama mahal seperti di Bristol. Okay, so you look at accommodation, it's £5,000 here, £5,000 here. So that means statement number 3 is also correct. Number 4, the percentage of overseas students at Durham is lower. So percentage here, Durham 21%, Bristol 13%. So Durham is higher than Bristol. So over here, statement number 4 is wrong. So the right statement is the percentage of overseas students at Bristol is lower. Okay, last statement, both cities are near an international airport. Kedua-dua bandar adalah berdekatan dengan lapangan terbang antarabangsa, which is yes and yes. So this one is correct. Alright, easy, yeah? Now, task 2 here, I think you guys can do it on your own. Later on, I need you to look at number 2 here. Look at the information about 2 universities in the USA. Write sentences using the words given. Alright, similar with this part right here just now. Okay, over here we have information comparing the information between Harvard University and Yale University. Alright, all you have to do is just to complete these sentences. Number 1 has been done for you. Harvard is older than Yale. Harvard adalah lebih tua daripada Yale. So you can see the information here. Harvard was founded in 1636 while Yale was founded in 1701. So over here, Harvard is older than Yale. Alright, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, number 6, and number 7. You can try to complete it on your own. If you're not sure of your answer, you can try to ask me in the WhatsApp group later on. Okay. Now, finally, this is something that I really need you to focus on. Alright. This one is also found in your textbook on page 46. Muka surat 46. This very short paragraph is exactly the kind of paragraph that you have to write in the essay part for your final exam. Alright, now before you get too worried about it, let me tell you that as long as you understand the structure of this short paragraph, everything should be okay, because this is actually a very easy paragraph to write. Very easy, asalkan anda faham apa yang perlu ditulis di dalam this short paragraph. Alright, so basically what needs to exist, apa yang perlu ada in this paragraph are these 4 components that I've provided here. Number 1 is introduction, number 2 is similarities, number 3 is differences. So these 2 items paling penting, yeah, it has to be there. And lastly, the conclusion has to be there. Now this short paragraph right here, walaupun nampak pendek, but it actually contains all these 4 components that you have to write. Alright, now this paragraph talks about the similarities and differences between 2 universities. The first one is University of Hong Kong. The second one is National University of Singapore. So this whole paragraph right here talks about their similarities and also their differences. Okay, so semudah itu. So the first one is the introduction. Introduction, you don't have to worry because it can be as simple as a 1 sentence introduction. Dia bukan macam introduction that you write for other types of essays out there. For a comparison paragraph like this, if you have 1 sentence, 1 introductory sentence, that should be more than enough. Okay, over here, the first one, there are a number of similarities between the University of Hong Kong and the National University of Singapore. Now, if you are able to write this kind of introduction for your comparison paragraph later on, it's more than enough for me, because it tells me exactly what that paragraph is about. Alright, so this first sentence here is a very good introduction. Let me line it up for you. Okay, the part that I line for you, you can actually write the exact same sentence when you write your own comparison paragraph later on. Yang selebihnya you have to pandai-pandai isi sendirilah, depending on what you have to compare. If you have to compare A and B, then you can just say there are a number of similarities between A and B. If you need to compare between Honda and Toyota, then you can just say there are a number of similarities between Honda and Toyota. If you need to compare between Unimas and UITM, then you just say there are a number of similarities between Unimas and UITM. Cuma tambah sedikit lah for this part right here, dia hanya sebut similarities. On your part later, you have to add and differences. there are a number of similarities and differences between what and what. Okay, now the first similarity is both universities are over 100 years old. Remember the form that I mentioned to you just now? Kedua-dua universiti adalah over 100 years old. Okay, persamaan yang pertama. Persamaan yang kedua adalah similarly, both universities are always in the top 10. Okay, both universities, kedua-dua universities are always in the top 10 of Asian universities. Persamaan yang kedua, senang. Alright, and in this paragraph here, it also adds a third persamaan yang ketiga, right? In addition, English is the main language of instruction. So there are a lot of international students. Alright, so there are three similarities here that you can see. Okay, going back to this, those are the similarities. Now let's talk about differences. The first difference that this paragraph talks about is Singapore's population is not as large as Hong Kong. Ada terlupa satu S ya kat situ. Is not as large as Hong Kong. Remember the form that I told you just now? When you want to talk about the difference, you can also use the form as what as, but mesti ada tambahan not in front. Alright. On the other hand, Singapore is a capital city and the center of the country's government and economy. Hong Kong is not a capital city, however, it is a center for trade and business. This is also another difference. Alright, so you can see that this paragraph right here talks about similarities and differences very effectively, as long as, on your part later, as long as you use the right form to talk about similarities and the right form to talk about differences, everything should be okay. Alright, and last but not least, when you want to close the paragraph, you just talk about the conclusion over here. The conclusion is this. So overall, the universities are very similar because they are exciting places to live and study and offer a good university education. Alright, so this paragraph right here, it's a very good comparison paragraph. It doesn't have to be long. I think it basically has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 sentences only. If you write 8 sentences effectively, that can give you a very good comparison paragraph already. Okay, I don't like to talk about numbers, but if you need to balance everything out, for introduction, 1 sentence sudah mencukupi. Similarities, talk about 2 of them. And similarly, talk about differences, 2 differences. And when you have conclusion, 6. So you have 6, paling sikit pun 6 sentences. You can go more than that, but not too much. Alright, because it's supposed to be short and simple. So paling sikit pun 6 sentences, 1 sentence, 1 sentence for introduction, 2 sentences for similarities, 2 sentences for differences, 1 conclusion. 6 sentences can give you a very good comparison paragraph already. Okay, now on Elite page, I will provide you with a simple table with information, and as an exercise, I want you to try to complete it and see if you can come up with a good comparison paragraph or not. Now, this exercise is important because I need to see if you guys are able to come up with a good comparison paragraph to prepare you for the final exam later on. Now, talking about final exam, I'll be explaining further on that as we progress towards the end of the semester. You don't have to worry so much about it. Of course, it has to be done online, but I still need to explain a bit more on that later on. Alright, but for now, I need you guys to focus on your assessment first. And then by next week, I'll be giving you, by the end of the week, I'll be giving you instructions on assessment 3, what you guys need to do for assessment 3. All right, so if you have any question, feel free to ask me on WhatsApp group, and have a good day. Thank you very much.